Extensor Digitorum Longus and Extensor Hallicus Longus are all going to be found right here on the lateral aspect of the leg, or just lateral to the tibia. That make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, you guys all found them yesterday. If you want to isolate them, there's some things you can do. Like, for example, if I put my hand here, I can find them all by having them dorsiflex. So press into my hand. Okay, relax. Now, if I want to find the digitorum muscle, I can say, press, and actually if you do that, like get the thumb out of the way, push up on my thumb. Yep, relax. Once again. And relax. Once again.
Like wiggling your toes
Yeah.
into the thumb.
Yeah, I'm having him press into the thumb. And if you isolate the thumb and the big toe, it makes it a lot easier for them to do one and not the other. Okay. Anybody want to feel that? Just feel where that is. Press.
Neat.
You feel there's like a little line popping up?
Yeah.
Yep. And try not to pull with your big toe if you can.
It's really hard.
Just right there.
Yeah, it's over here.
Yep.
What's the one lateral to it?
So right here, you've got tibialis anterior is all of this, and then the extensor digitorum is kind of running right here. Okay, and then they both cross. They both sort of cross this way. Actually, yeah, extensor digitorum doesn't really cross over, but the tibialis anterior is going to go like that to right here. Okay, and the extensor digitorum is going out here to the toes. Does it go to the pinky toe?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
2 through 5.
2 through 5, yep. Okay, so tibialis anterior is an inverter. Extensor digitorum longus is an everter. Not a powerful everter. The peroneals are better at it, but it is an everter. Okay, and then the extensor hallicus muscle, where does it originate? Extensor hallicus.
Ain't that on the bottom third?
Of the
Tibia.
fibula. It crosses over like this. It's sort of a weird, like I don't know. That took me a while to learn. It's the same on the back. The flexor hallicus originates on the fibula as well. But I can do the opposite. Say push up with your big toe. Relax. Once again, and there it is. Press again. You guys see you can even see the fibers pop up a little bit right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay, so we know where they are, right? For all intents and purposes, you can use the acronym Tom, Dick, and Harry, which is to say tibialis anterior, extensor digitorum, it's extensor hallicus. It actually works a little bit better on the flexors because the Tom and Dick are kind of in the same place here. But all that being said, that's one of the memory tools for these three muscles. Okay, so basic warm-up, you can do some Swedish. It's pretty hard to do, I mean, you can do a little bit of skin rolling, but not a lot there. Let me know if I'm pulling hair also. Okay, so you can do a little bit of skin stretching. I would say even if you're doing a Swedish routine, this is a place that often gets neglected, and it's like kind of nice.
One of my favorite places.
Yeah, it can feel really good to have that worked on. So don't neglect it. You don't need to. Okay. So one thing that I'll do a lot of with these muscles, if it feels like they can take some pressure, is put my thumb right here, lateral to the tibia, and use it as a massage tool.
Do you mind showing me real quick how you're like hold your hands up and show me what part of your hand is putting the pressure into the thumb?
Put your thumb right here.
Okay.
Are you in the lateral border of the tibialis anterior, or are
Right.
you on digitorum?
So I'm kind of, here, relax your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm kind of doing that.
It's interesting. So I feel like a lot of the pressure is actually going here, even though my thumb's down there. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Cool.
So I'm pushing your hand and your thumb
Yeah.
in. I'm
You just
trying.
kind of lock it in, and then you're using
Right.
your hand.
So it is a thumb technique that does not involve work for the thumb.
Right.
And if you start feeling your thumb doing work, all I can tell you is every single time you're doing massage and you feel your thumb doing work, pause for a second and ask if there's any other possible way to do that work. Thumbs are one of the number one reasons why massage therapists have to retire early. Okay? So if you can keep your thumbs out of the equation, do. This right here, my thumb is there, but there's no contraction. I can relax my hand and do this. So I'm just using it as a tool. The good news is I get to take advantage of the wonderful sensory information I can get from the thumb, which is why people do so much thumb work, because they get good sensory information from it. Okay, but the reality is this is a saddle joint. These are hinge joints, so, ellipsoidal, but as far as for our purposes, they're basically hinge joints. A saddle joint means it can go this way and it can go this way, which means it is more flexible. What's the other part of more flexible though? Less stable. That make sense? Okay, and it's really easy to start applying a lot of pressure on your thumb, putting all that pressure on this joint. And this joint cannot sustain that pressure. Okay, so you'll probably hear me say that again at some point. Okay, so once I've gotten a sense of where all the muscles are and what's going on, I feel the most tension right about there. Okay, that's going to give me a place to target. I can hold pressure with fingers. When you're using fingers, you want to make a habit of aiming for pads, not tips. It feels less pokey. Okay. Also, if you do have any kind of sharpness or palpative parts of your nails, you can't go straight in with fingertips.
So you're pushing down, not like into the bone.
I'm pressing that way.
What are you on right now?
Press up. Yeah, tibialis anterior. Okay. Other things I can do, you can do this in a stool as well. You can get a forearm, I'm gonna go this way, or an elbow into that muscle. Is that pressure okay?
Do you feel different from when you did fingers and elbow?
It just feels good.
It's great
Well,
feedback.
what difference do you experience? Because I'm curious about that.
Probably feels broader, is that accurate? Than
Yeah.
fingertips?
Yeah, it's not as isolated in that one spot.
Yeah.
It radiates outward.
So the thing about broader pressure is typically you can use more pressure when it's broad than anything that's point specific. You can use that in the other direction though, because if you're finding you're not strong enough to apply the pressure they want, just go pokier. Okay? Go elbow tip.
Yeah.
Okay? Or, you know, if you're trying to do it with your hand and they're like, oh, you can go deeper, and you really can't, get some knuckles in there and, you know, still be as broad as is possible with the pressure. But a lot of times the trick is not necessarily pushing harder, it's pushing better. You know, so find what's right for your client. And the thing is, it's going to be different with every single client. But you'll start to know what muscles feel like. And you're going to find out that some people's leg muscles feel like other people's arm muscles just because one guy's huge and one woman's tiny. And, you know, that's your whole goal is to start to know, like, how's the best way to press on this muscle? Because this muscle feels big, or this muscle feels small, or this muscle feels tight, or it doesn't feel tight, or whatever. Okay. And so again, compression on the belly of the muscle, inch by inch down the muscle. Tibialis anterior is going to have a pretty broad origin point. You guys remember that? Kind of spanning these two bones and running a decent way down these bones. So you can't really isolate origins in the way that you might with other muscles that we're going to be working in the next few weeks, or even like gastrocnemius last week. It's pretty easy to isolate the origin and insertion, right? Whereas these attachment points are more complex. So as far as like, am I working the origin point? Yeah, sort of, but it's not really a point. It's really sort of this broad space under most of the muscle. Does that make sense? Cool. And we're just sort of patiently working our way down. When we get down towards the ankle, the closer we get to the ankle, the more you have to be aware that, you know, if you actually want to work the extensor hallicus muscle, you got to get out here.
What do you mean out here? Like
Out here on the
more
fibula.
Lateral?
Yeah, so here's our peroneals right here. Here's our extensor hallicus is going to be just
kind of
Just right there. Whereas these other ones are going to be running, you know, the extensor digitorum is going to be running sort of straight down, and the tibialis anterior is running over here. Okay, the hallicus muscle runs in a diagonal like that.
But also to here.
Yeah, to there. But as far as bellies go, there is no, like, none of these muscles really have any belly distal to the ankle. It's all tendons beyond that point. So, you know, we just kind of work our way down. Like right there. Is that kind of tender there?
No.
No?
It
Okay.
was tender just up above where you was just there.
More up here?
Yeah, it's tender.
Oh, interesting.
Looks like you're compressing the whole belly.
Yeah, that's kind of the goal. And I'm trying to palpate the whole belly. I would say most of my compression is right here.
Okay.
You can see that's...
Oh yeah, I can see the difference in the picture. There's like a gradient.
Right. My pinky's not really doing
Yeah, it's doing
anything.
nothing.
And my thumb is mostly just palpating.
Okay.
You know, as far as pressure goes, I would say it's offering, you know, maybe 5 to 10% of what it's capable of. Because again, I don't love thumb palpation, but having my hand right here keeps the leg in position.
So you feel like your fingers are more stable than your thumbs, and that's why you've chosen to work with them?
Well, anatomically, fingers are more stable than thumbs. The problem is that the thumb has one fewer bone in it, right? So you get, 50% less leverage? Or I guess it's 33% less leverage with the fingers. So you feel like your thumb is stronger, right? It's just less stable. It is stronger, it's just less stable. So that's why I prefer to use 2 fingers over 1 thumb, and 2 fingers should be stronger than my thumb. Does that make sense?
Okay.
But 1 finger is not stronger than the thumb. That's the key. There you go.
Good team.
All right. So all that being said, you know, just again, working down the belly is the muscle. When you're done, you want to do a little bit of thank you, you know, Swedish or something like that, strokes to cool it down. Okay. This is our goodbye sort of thank you stroke. And if you do happen to notice something like, oh, right there's something, it's okay to pause for a second and work on it. And just remember, when you're done, again, just a little bit of work. Now, if I want to, one thing that I can do with the tibialis anterior that can feel kind of nice is I can bring the foot, so relax, there we go. I can bring that foot into dorsiflexion and then pull it into plantar flexion and then kind of work my way up that way.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, that's kind of like,
With the, it reminds me of the glutes and then rocking the leg back and forth.
Yeah.
so you're using the motion of a
been doing that
joint
with
to
the bicep.
move the soft tissue
Yeah.
rather than moving your hand or
And you
whatever.
can feel, like, put your hand right there. What you'll feel is, as I dorsiflex it, you feel it softens. And then as I plantar flex it, I'm pulling the tissue out from under
Yeah.
there. And so just go with it when I soften it, right? And then, so you feel you can gradually move up the muscle.
Yeah.
It's a strain counter strain technique when you sort of move with the movement of the joint or the movement of the muscles. Okay, all that being said, I did want to show you guys one other thing, which is supine work on gastrocnemius and soleus, which is kind of fun. It works like this. You end up sort of sitting on their foot. But the technique looks like this. If I take my arm and just sort of slide it under, then I can just lean back.
That's awesome.
Are you talking about gastroc here?
Gastroc and soleus.
Oh, I see that.
And so it's actually pretty low impact on my hands because mostly I'm just doing it with my torso.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
How's that feel?
Works for me.
Yeah.
I ain't complaining.
That's really cool.
So if you're like towards the end of your routine, I mean, sequence-wise, I usually do feet last, and that's just so I don't have to like pause and wash my hands, or feel creepy about not washing my hands. But if you're, you know, sequencing things and you get to their foot and they're like, oh yeah, I got this thing, and you're realizing like, oh, you should have worked their calf. You know, this is a good way to do some calf work without having to turn them over. That makes sense? Or if you got somebody who's got a cold and they won't go in a face cradle. There's another reason. So all that being said, if you're gonna do lower leg work, Demo's gonna be long today. I'll make it shorter next week so that you guys get more table time. But because we basically talked about the muscles we're gonna learn next week, or at least some of them. Let's just talk for a moment about footwork, okay? So we stand on our feet all day long. That should give you some notion of the amount of pressure feet can tolerate. Should be able to tolerate, I should say. Should be able to tolerate. Now, as you work feet, one of the things you should note, so think about this. We got 3 phalanges in each toe, 2 in the big toe. We've got 5 metatarsals. We got 7 tarsals. So what does that end up being? That's 14, 26. 26. Okay, and then there's some piezoform bones. I think it ends up actually being like 28 or 30 bones in the foot, depending, which ends up being a lot more joints than bones. There's just, yeah. So it's not a solid block. Don't treat it like it's a solid block. It can arch this way. It can arch this way. It can evert. It can invert. You know, that foot can move around, and it should move around. And a lot of times people don't ask their feet to move around. They walk on concrete. They walk in shoes. They walk in boots. So the little muscles between each of these bones, each of these metatarsals, often don't get stretched. So it's really easy to go in with some fingers between these bones and cause this person to have like 10 out of 10 intensity without trying very hard. So be aware of that, okay? That being said, a little bit of intensity is okay with the feet because the feet are designed to be for you to stand on them all day long. You know, if we go from like an evolutionary standpoint, they should be able to step on roots and rocks all day long and be okay. Okay, so don't be afraid of a little bit of intensity with the feet. All I will tell you is learn what your client is okay with, you know. But so these muscles, there are little muscles in here that 1, pull the metatarsals together, and 2, extend the toes. And there's little muscles down here that pull the bones together and flex the toes. Okay, we're not even going to learn all those muscles because there's so many of them, and frankly, that's what they do. Now you know. Okay, and that's where they are. They're between the bones. Now the major extensor of the toes are right here. Right here. These are Extensor Digitorum Brevis and Extensor Hallicus Brevis. Okay, that's why there's a longus, because there's a brevis. Okay, down here on the bottom of the foot, there's a whole bunch of muscles. There are muscles that move the big toe this way and this way, so an abductor and an adductor. There's this big plantar aponeurosis. Aponeurosis means a big, broad sheet of tendon. Like, look at that guy's back. You see the big white thing on his back? That is the thoracolumbar aponeurosis. Okay, there's one on the bottom of the foot. Okay, any muscles you're working on the bottom of the foot are deep to the aponeurosis.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you can do some warm up of that tissue just by doing like fist. Okay, thumb slides are good. And then a lot of times what I end up doing is just basically isolating one of the metatarsals and trying to move the foot relative to that one. You can go up, you can go down, okay, and you can do the same, and just trying to stretch all that tissue. Now, if you're doing a Swedish, they're probably not going to encourage this level of intensity on the work. But if you're doing NMT type work on somebody who's got serious foot issues, you want to mobilize as many joints as you possibly can in that foot, okay? And this is how we're going to get at all of those insertions of all of the muscles through here, okay? Because they insert, I mean, wait till you guys learn the insertion for tibialis posterior. That one's crazy. It's the reason you have an arch in your foot, that muscle.
Oh, that loop around guy?
It comes from down here, and it just attaches to, like, there. Just like different fibers, just like, yeah, there. You'll see. But, yeah, so they all have these really complex attachments that allow the foot to do all the cool things that it does, you know, have dexterity while supporting 100, 200 pounds. Fun Thai massage technique for stretching the ankle is this. If you support the ankle with one hand and just reach over the top of the foot and then lower the elbow. You can stretch, and we can do the other way. Stretch.
That one hurts a little bit.
Little. And that one.
That one don't hurt at all.
Yeah. And then we can do a dorsiflexion stretch. Keep the foot under the ankle. Use the forearm under the foot and lean forward.
I don't like that.
That's nice.
Okay, and you can use a lot of leverage without actually I'm not overdoing it. Certainly my fingers aren't working very hard. Does that make sense?
Can you